Ambassador Elena Vasquez stared at the holographic document floating before her, its ancient symbols pulsing with an eerie blue light. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the translation completed, revealing words that would change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe.
"This cannot be correct," Elena said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands.
"You're claiming humanity owes a debt of, what exactly?" High Counselor Zethkar, a towering insectoid being with crystalline wings, clicked his mandibles nervously. "The debt is clearly documented, Ambassador.
Your species owes the Veltar Collective a sum equivalent to the complete terraforming of 17 worlds, plus compound interest calculated over 12,000 Earth years."
The human delegation exchanged glances. Dr. Sarah Chen, humanity's chief xenoarchaeologist, leaned forward in her chair. "The Veltar went extinct 8,000 years ago. How can we owe them anything?"
"Extinction does not nullify debt," declared Counselor Morix, a massive whale-like creature whose voice resonated through the chamber's water-filled section. "The Veltar saved your homeworld from complete annihilation during the great solar storm of your year 2847 BCE. They stabilized your sun when it threatened to go nova, preventing the extinction of all life on Earth."
Elena felt her world tilt. Ancient human myths suddenly took on new meaning.
Stories of gods calming the angry sun, of divine intervention during humanity's darkest hour.
"You have proof of this?"
The hologram shifted, showing detailed records of energy signatures, gravitational manipulations, and stellar engineering on a scale that defied comprehension. Ships the size of moons had worked for months to prevent Earth's sun from destroying the solar system. The documentation was extensive, authenticated by dozens of galactic civilizations, and absolutely irrefutable. "The Veltar expected repayment within 2,000 years, Zethkar continued. "They left detailed instructions and waited. When your species failed to develop space travel within the agreed timeframe, they began charging interest. Compound interest." Dr. Chen's tablet chimed as she calculated the figures. Her face went pale. "Elena, according to their mathematics, we now owe." She paused, checking her calculations again. "We owe them the equivalent of terraforming and populating 437 worlds." The council chamber erupted in clicks, chirps, and otherworldly sounds that the universal translator struggled to process. Several species had never seen a debt of this magnitude. Others whispered about precedents and galactic law. "Surely there must be some statute of limitations," Elena argued. "Some provision for changed circumstances." High Counselor Vexnara, a graceful being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form, spoke with a voice like wind chimes. "Galactic Law Article 7 clearly states that debts for life preservation services cannot be forgiven, reduced, or dismissed. They can only be transferred or settled in full." "What does transferred mean?" Elena asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. "The debt can be inherited by another species," Morix explained. "Several civilizations have expressed interest in assuming humanity's debt in exchange for considerations." Elena didn't need to ask what those considerations would be. Humanity would become a client species, essentially slaves working off someone else's debt for the next several millennia. The thought made her stomach turn. "And settlement?" she asked. "The debt must be paid as agreed," Zethkar said. 437 worlds, terraformed to Class M specifications, populated with sustainable ecosystems, and delivered to the Veltar Collective's designated inheritors. "Who are these inheritors?" Dr. Chen asked. The hologram displayed a new image, a collection of species that made Elena's blood run cold. The Raktai Empire, known throughout the galaxy for their brutal efficiency and total disregard for individual life. They had apparently purchased the rights to the Veltar debt at a fraction of its value, seeing it as an opportunity for massive expansion. "The Raktai own our debt now?" Elena's voice cracked slightly. "They do," confirmed Vexnara. "And they have been quite vocal about their expectations for repayment." As if summoned by the mention of their name, a section of the chamber darkened as a massive holographic projection materialized. General Vorthak of the Raktai Empire appeared, his scaled hide scarred from countless battles, his red eyes burning with anticipation. "Humans," he growled, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You have exactly one standard galactic year to begin demonstrating progress towards settling your debt. If you cannot provide the first 50 terraformed worlds within that timeframe, we will begin collecting payment through alternative means." Elena knew what those alternative means were. The Raktai had built their empire on slave labor, strip mining operations, and the systematic exploitation of weaker species. They would turn Earth into a factory world, working humanity to death to pay off the debt.
1 year, Elena repeated. To terraform 50 worlds. The choice is yours, human, Vorthak snarled.
Pay your debt, or become property of the Raktai Empire.
Either way, we will collect what is owed.
The hologram disappeared, leaving the council chamber in uncomfortable silence.
Elena looked around at the assembled representatives of dozens of civilizations.
Some showed sympathy, others calculation, and a few appeared to be already making mental notes about opportunities in the aftermath.
There must be another way, Elena said finally. High Counselor Zethkar's wings buzzed nervously.
Ambassador, I appreciate your species situation, but galactic law is clear. The debt exists, it is legally binding, and it must be settled. The only variables are how and by whom.
Dr. Chen leaned over to whisper in Elena's ear. We need to contact Earth immediately.
The Security Council, the Unity Government, everyone.
We need options, and we need them fast. Elena nodded, her mind already racing.
Humanity had faced extinction before and survived. They had overcome plagues, natural disasters, wars, and their own worst impulses to reach the stars.
But this was different.
This was a debt so vast that even their most optimistic projections for technological advancement couldn't hope to pay it off in 1,000 years.
We will need time to consult with our government, Elena said formally. How long do we have to respond? The debt is already in collection, Morex rumbled. General Vorthak was quite generous in offering you 1 full year to begin payment. Most creditors would have demanded immediate transfer of assets.
Assets meaning Earth itself, Dr. Chen muttered.
Among other things, Vexnara confirmed with what might have been sympathy.
Your industrial capacity, your population, your territorial claims in this sector.
The Raktai have been quite thorough in their assessment.
Elena stood, her diplomatic training taking over despite the magnitude of the crisis.
Then, we will return to Earth immediately to discuss this matter with our leadership. We will respond within the Galactic Standard Month. See that you do, Zethkar said. And, Ambassador?
For what it's worth, many of us hope you find a solution. The galaxy is complicated enough without adding the Raktai's particular brand of efficiency to it. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Elena caught fragments of conversation from the other council members. Words like impossible, unprecedented, and extinction event followed them out of the chamber.
Back aboard their ship, Dr. Chen pulled up the debt documentation again. Elena, I've been going through these records.
The Veltar didn't just save Earth from a solar event. They prevented a chain reaction that would have destabilized this entire spiral arm of the galaxy.
We're not just talking about one world here.
They saved billions of civilizations. Making our debt that much more legitimate, Elena said grimly. Or, Dr. Chen said slowly, making their methods that much more interesting.
Look at these energy readings, these technological signatures. The Veltar didn't just have advanced technology. They had something else. Something that let them manipulate stellar mechanics like we adjust a thermostat.
Elena studied the data, her diplomatic mind beginning to work on the problem from new angles.
What are you thinking, Sarah?
I'm thinking that maybe the Raktai and the Galactic Council don't fully understand what they're dealing with. They see humanity as a primitive species that got lucky and survived.
But what if survival isn't luck? What if it's something else entirely?
Such as? Dr. Chen highlighted several sections of the Veltar records.
Look at why they saved us. Not just Earth, but specifically humanity.
Every other intervention they performed was to preserve established civilizations, advanced species, important trade routes.
But Earth?
We were barely past the hunter-gatherer stage. We had nothing they needed, no strategic value, no advanced technology to preserve.
So why did they save us? That's what I intend to find out, Dr. Chen said. Because I have a feeling that whatever the answer is, it's going to change how the galaxy views our debt settlement capabilities. Elena nodded, though she wasn't sure whether Dr. Chen's optimism was justified or if it would make their situation worse.
Either way, humanity was about to discover what it really meant to settle a debt that could reshape the galaxy. The ship turned toward Earth, carrying news that would transform human civilization forever. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their sessions, but the topic had shifted. For the first time in galactic history, a species faced a debt so massive that settling it would require rewriting the fundamental laws of terraforming, economics, and interstellar relations. What none of them yet understood was that humanity had never been particularly concerned with following existing laws when survival was at stake. They were about to learn what humans meant when they talked about paying their debts in full. The emergency session of the United Earth Council lasted 47 hours straight. Representatives from every nation, corporation, and major research institution crowded into the Geneva headquarters, while billions more watched the proceedings through Neuralink broadcasts. The debt documentation floated in holographic displays throughout the chamber, its implications sinking in as translators worked to explain the magnitude of humanity's situation. President Sarah Morrison stood at the central podium, her face grave but determined.
Ladies and gentlemen, we face a challenge unlike anything in human history.
We have 11 months and 3 weeks to demonstrate meaningful progress towards settling a debt that, by conventional means, would take us approximately 15,000 years to repay. Dr. Elena Vasquez, fresh from her emergency return trip, added her voice to the discussion. The Galactic Council has made it clear that there are no loopholes, no appeals, and no extensions. We pay, or we become the property of the Hraktai Empire.
A murmur of unease rippled through the assembly.
The Hraktai's reputation had reached Earth through various diplomatic channels. Entire species had been reduced to worker castes under their rule, their homeworld strip-mined until they became barren husks.
Director Chen Wei of the Asian Terraforming Consortium stood up.
Dr. Vasquez, you mentioned that the Veltar records contained unusual technological signatures.
Has our analysis revealed anything useful? Dr. Sarah Chen, Elena's colleague from the diplomatic mission, activated a new holographic display. We've made some remarkable discoveries.
The Veltar didn't just prevent our sun from going nova through conventional stellar engineering.
They did something that our best astrophysicists are calling impossible.
They reached into the quantum structure of stellar fusion itself and rewrote the fundamental interactions. Professor James Auckland from Cambridge raised his hand. That would require technology beyond anything we've seen from current galactic civilizations.
Are you suggesting the Veltar were more advanced than anyone realized?
I'm suggesting something more interesting, Dr. Chen replied. The energy signatures match theoretical models for what we've been calling probability cascade manipulation.
The Veltar didn't just have better technology.
They had learned to influence reality itself at the quantum level. The chamber fell silent. This was venturing into territory that most humans barely understood, even with their advanced scientific knowledge. General Patricia Hayes, head of Earth's Space Defense Force, leaned forward.
Dr. Chen, are you saying these aliens could manipulate luck itself?
I'm saying they could make extremely unlikely events become certainties, Dr. Chen corrected. And, more importantly, they specifically chose to save humanity despite our apparent insignificance.
That wasn't random altruism.
They saw something in our species that made our survival worth their intervention.
President Morrison nodded thoughtfully. Which brings us to our current situation.
We need to understand why they saved us, and we need to figure out how to settle this debt using whatever that reason was.
CEO Maria Gonzalez of the Pan American Mining Guild stood up.
Madam President, with respect, we're talking about terraforming over 400 worlds. Even if we mobilized every resource on Earth, developed revolutionary new technologies, and worked without stopping for the next century, we couldn't complete even 50 worlds.
Not using conventional methods, agreed Dr. Chen. But what if we're thinking about this wrong? What if the Veltar saved us precisely because we don't think conventionally?
Director Zhang Li from the Chinese Academy of Sciences accessed her personal files.
I've been reviewing historical human achievements.
We have a pattern of solving impossible problems through what other species might consider insane approaches. We've survived ice ages through pure stubbornness, developed space travel in less than 70 years, and unified our planet after millennia of warfare.
Your point being, asked General Hayes.
My point is that every time humanity faced extinction, we didn't just survive. We came back stronger and completely changed the rules of the game.
Maybe that's what the Veltar saw. Maybe that's why this debt exists. President Morrison studied the assembled representatives. Dr. Chen, Dr. Vasquez, I'm authorizing Project Probability.
I want our best minds working on understanding Veltar technology, not to replicate it, but to understand how they viewed reality.
Meanwhile, I'm also authorizing something unprecedented.
She activated a new section of the holographic display, showing resource allocation charts that made several representatives gasp. We're going to settle this debt, but we're going to do it our way. General Hayes, I want mobilization protocols active within the week. Every space-capable vessel, every terraforming platform, every manufacturing facility. We're not just paying this debt, we're going to show the galaxy what humans mean when we commit to something. General Hayes smiled grimly.
Ma'am, are we talking about full industrial conversion?
We're talking about something that's never been attempted by any species in galactic history, Morrison replied.
We're going to turn debt settlement into a form of warfare.
The concept sent ripples of excitement and terror through the assembly. Industrial conversion meant transforming Earth's entire economic system into a single, massive machine dedicated to one purpose. It had been theorized but never implemented, even during humanity's worst conflicts.
CEO Gonzalez looked troubled. Madam President, the resource requirements alone would bankrupt every corporation on Earth.
We're talking about converting civilian infrastructure, mining operations, even residential areas into terraforming production.
Which is exactly what we're going to do, Morrison confirmed. But, not just on Earth.
Maria, I want you to coordinate with every mining operation in the solar system. We're going to strip mine every asteroid, planetoid, and moon that isn't essential for life support.
Director Chanwei raised a concern. The environmental impact could be catastrophic. We'd be undoing centuries of conservation efforts. The alternative is extinction, Morrison pointed out.
Besides, I have a feeling that once we start settling this debt, environmental concerns are going to become irrelevant.
Dr. Sarah Chan activated another display, showing preliminary calculations. I've been running numbers based on the Veltar records. If we can understand their probability manipulation technology, we might not need to terraform worlds conventionally.
We could influence the development of planetary systems themselves, accelerate geological processes, maybe even encourage the spontaneous development of suitable atmospheres.
Professor Auckland looked skeptical.
That would require godlike capabilities.
Or it would require thinking like gods, Dr. Chen countered.
The Veltar records suggest they didn't see terraforming as engineering. They saw it as gardening on a cosmic scale. They convinced reality to cooperate with their plans. President Morrison made her decision. Dr. Chen, you have unlimited resources for project probability. Figure out how the Veltar thought. General Hayes, you have authorization for Operation Cascade.
Turn our entire civilization into a debt settlement machine.
CEO Gonzalez, Director Chen, Director Zhang, you're going to help us build terraforming capabilities that will make the rest of the galaxy reconsider what's possible. As the assembly began breaking into working groups, Dr. Elena Vasquez pulled President Morrison aside.
Sarah, there's something else.
The Galactic Council seemed genuinely afraid when they were discussing our debt.
Not sympathetic, not concerned. Afraid.
I think they know something about humanity that they're not sharing.
Such as?
Such as what happened the last time a species tried to collect a debt from us through force.
Morrison raised an eyebrow. We've never had galactic creditors before.
No, but we've had creditors.
And invaders. And oppressors.
And every time someone tried to force humanity into an impossible situation, we didn't just survive.
We usually ended up in charge of whatever system was oppressing us. The president considered this. You think the council expects us to somehow default on this debt and become ragtag property?
I think they expect us to do something completely unexpected that will terrify everyone involved, Elena replied.
And I think they're right.
As Earth's government machinery began the most ambitious mobilization in human history, signals were already being sent to every human colony, research station, and exploration vessel in known space. The message was simple: return home immediately. Humanity was about to attempt something that would either save their species or destroy them in the most spectacular way imaginable. 3 weeks later, the first reports began reaching the Galactic Council. Human industrial activity had increased by 800%. Mining operations were being established in star systems that other species considered too dangerous or unprofitable to exploit. Massive construction projects had begun in the asteroid belt, building structures whose purpose no one could identify. High Counselor Zethkar reviewed the intelligence reports with growing confusion.
These humans appear to be building something. Something enormous. Perhaps they're constructing a fleet to attempt military resistance, suggested Counselor Morix. Counselor Vexnara's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. The energy signatures don't match any known weapon systems.
If anything, they appear to be building manufacturing infrastructure on a scale I've never seen attempted by a single species. What none of them realized was that humanity had made a fundamental decision that would reshape their understanding of debt settlement. They weren't going to pay the Raktai. They weren't going to ask for extensions or negotiate payment plans. They were going to settle their debt by redefining what debt settlement meant on a galactic scale. And, the first step was to demonstrate that when humans committed to something, the universe itself learned to get out of their way. General Vortak, monitoring human activity from his flagship, felt the first stirrings of unease. These humans weren't behaving like a species facing inevitable slavery. They were behaving like a species preparing for something that would change the fundamental rules of the game.
He was absolutely right to be worried.
6 months after the debt revelation, the galaxy began to understand that they had seriously underestimated humanity's approach to problem solving.
What started as industrial mobilization had evolved into something that defied every known precedent in galactic civilization.
Captain Elena Vesquez, now promoted to admiral and head of the newly formed debt settlement fleet, stood on the bridge of the massive vessel humanity had constructed in record time.
The UES probability wasn't just a ship.
It was a mobile terraforming platform the size of a small moon, equipped with technology that made even human engineers question what they had built.
Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from 17 different galactic governments, reported Communications Officer Sarah Chen, Dr. Sarah Chen's daughter who had joined the fleet operations.
They all want to know what we're doing in the Kepler 442 system.
Elena smiled grimly. Tell them we're settling a debt.
What humanity was doing in Kepler 442 was revolutionizing terraforming in ways that no species had imagined possible. Instead of the traditional approach of atmospheric processing, soil conditioning, and ecological introduction that took centuries, humans had developed what they called cascade terraforming. Dr. Marcus Webb, the lead scientist on Project Probability, had cracked the secret of Veltar technology not by replicating it, but by understanding the philosophy behind it.
The Veltar hadn't forced changes on planetary systems.
They had convinced reality that the changes had always been inevitable.
Admiral, we're ready to begin cascade initiation on Kepler 442b, Dr. Webb announced.
The quantum resonance generators are online, and the probability matrices are stable.
Proceed, Doctor.
What happened next would be recorded as the moment the galaxy realized that humans didn't just solve problems. They redefined the nature of problems themselves. The UES probability activated its quantum resonance array, sending precisely tuned energy patterns into the planet below.
But, instead of directly altering the atmospheric composition or geological structure, the technology did something far more sophisticated.
It reached into the quantum foam of reality itself and adjusted the probability that beneficial changes would occur naturally. Within hours, volcanic activity on Kepler 442b began producing exactly the right atmospheric gases. Tectonic shifts occurred at precisely the correct rates to create optimal continental configurations. Underground water systems connected in patterns that would support complex ecosystems. Most remarkably, the planet's magnetic field strengthened to provide perfect protection from stellar radiation. To outside observers, it appeared as if the planet was terraforming itself. High Counselor Zethkar, monitoring the process from the Galactic Council's observation vessels, felt his wings trembling with a mixture of awe and terror.
This is impossible. Planets don't just spontaneously develop Class M characteristics.
Dr. Vexnara's crystalline form pulsed with rapid calculations.
According to our measurements, the humans aren't directly altering anything.
They're somehow influencing the quantum probability of natural processes.
It's as if they're convincing the universe that this planet was always meant to be habitable. How long did this take them? Asked Counselor Morix.
6 hours, 37 minutes, came the stunned reply from their science officer.
The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Traditional terraforming required decades or centuries. Humanity had just completed the process faster than most species could survey a planet.
But Admiral Vasquez wasn't finished.
As Kepler 442b completed its transformation, the human fleet moved to the next planet in the system. Then, the next.
Within 2 weeks, humanity had converted the entire Kepler 442 system into 7 perfectly habitable worlds, each with unique ecosystems but all suitable for complex life. The galaxy watched in mounting horror as humanity demonstrated that their debt settlement strategy wasn't just efficient. It was terrifyingly scalable. General Vorthak, aboard his flagship in the outer system, finally understood what he was witnessing. "They're not trying to pay off the debt," he growled to his subordinates. "They're demonstrating that the debt is irrelevant. At this rate, they could terraform 1,000 worlds in a single year." His tactical advisor, a scarred Hraktai warrior named Karath, studied the human fleet movements. "General, our intelligence suggests they're not just terraforming randomly. They're specifically choosing systems that contain strategic resources, trade routes, or..." He paused, his expression growing troubled. "Or what?" "Or systems where we have territorial claims, sir." Vorthak's red eyes narrowed as he reviewed the tactical displays. Every system humanity had chosen for terraforming was either unclaimed space or, more ominously, territory that the Hraktai Empire had plans to expand into. The humans weren't just settling their debt. They were systematically claiming every strategic location in their sector of the galaxy. "They're not paying us," Vorthak realized. "They're surrounding us." The truth of humanity's strategy began to dawn on galactic observers. By terraforming worlds at an unprecedented rate, humanity wasn't just settling their debt to the extinct Veltar. They were positioning themselves as the dominant terraforming power in the galaxy. Every world they created became a human colony, every system they transformed strengthened their strategic position. Admiral Vasquez received a priority communication from Earth as the fleet prepared to move to their next target system. President Morrison appeared in holographic form, her expression serious but determined. "Elena, the Galactic Council is demanding explanations. They want to know our long-term intentions." "What should I tell them, Madam President?" "Tell them the truth. We're settling our debt exactly as specified. 437 fully terraformed worlds, delivered to the designated inheritors. And if they ask about our choice of systems?" Morrison's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. "Tell them that the debt agreement didn't specify which systems we had to terraform. We're simply being efficient." The communication ended, leaving Elena to contemplate the magnitude of what humanity was attempting. They weren't just paying an impossible debt. They were using the debt as justification for the largest territorial expansion in galactic history. Dr. Webb approached with new data. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the Veltar records more thoroughly. I think I understand why they saved Earth specifically." "I'm listening." "They didn't save us because we were important. They saved us because they recognized something in human psychology that matched their own approach to problem solving. We don't accept limitations as permanent. When faced with impossible situations, we change the fundamental nature of the situation itself." Elena considered this. "You're saying they saw kindred spirits?" "I'm saying they saw a species that would someday be capable of what we're doing right now. Think about it. The Veltar could manipulate stellar mechanics, influence probability, reshape reality itself. But they went extinct. We're using their own technology to accomplish something they never attempted, converting debt into territorial dominance on a galactic scale." The implications were staggering. The Veltar hadn't just saved humanity from extinction. They had invested in humanity's potential to revolutionize galactic civilization. "Dr. Webb, how many systems can we terraform with our current fleet? With the Cascade technology?" "Theoretically, there's no limit as long as we have energy sources and quantum resonance materials. We could terraform every habitable system in the galaxy if we wanted to." "And how long would that take?" "At our current rate? Approximately 15 years. Elena felt a chill of understanding. Humanity wasn't just settling a debt. They were positioning themselves to become the galactic superpower that the Veltar had been before their extinction. And they were doing it under the legal protection of debt settlement law. The Galactic Council couldn't stop them because they were operating within the bounds of the agreement. The Hraktai couldn't challenge them militarily because humans were technically working to pay off their debt. And no other species could compete with terraforming technology that operated at the quantum level of reality itself. As the UES probability and its accompanying fleet moved toward their next target system, Admiral Vasquez realized that humanity had accidentally discovered the perfect strategy for galactic conquest, become so indebted that paying off the debt required taking over everything. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans committed to settling their debts, they didn't just pay what they owed. They fundamentally restructured the economic and territorial balance of power to ensure that such debts could never be imposed on them again. General Vortak, watching human ships disappear into hyperspace toward their next target, made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council.
"Hi Counselors, I formally request an emergency session. We need to discuss the human debt situation before it's too late." "Too late for what?" asked Sethkar. "Too late to stop them from owning the galaxy," Vortak replied grimly.
The request was granted immediately.
For the first time in galactic history, a creditor was asking for protection from their debtors' efficiency in paying them back.
The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened under circumstances unprecedented in the organization's 12,000-year history. For the first time, a creditor species was requesting intervention to stop their debtor from paying them back too efficiently. General Vortak stood before the assembled representatives, his usual commanding presence replaced by something approaching desperation. "Honored counselors, humanity's debt settlement activities have reached a scale that threatens the fundamental balance of galactic civilization." High Counselor Zethkar reviewed the latest intelligence reports, his crystalline wings buzzing with agitation. "General, according to our records, humanity has successfully terraformed 143 worlds in the past 8 months.
They are ahead of schedule for debt settlement." "That's exactly the problem," Vortak growled. "They're not just terraforming worlds.
They're systematically claiming every strategic system in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy.
At their current rate, they'll control more territory than the next 5 largest civilizations combined." Counselor Vexnara's energy form flickered with concern.
"General Vortak, while your concerns are noted, galactic law is clear. Humanity is operating within the legal parameters of debt settlement.
We cannot intervene in a legitimate business transaction." "Business transaction?" Vortak's voice rose to a roar. "These humans have weaponized debt repayment.
They're using our own laws as cover for the largest territorial expansion in galactic history."
The council chamber fell silent as representatives considered the implications. What Vortak was describing wasn't technically illegal, but it was certainly unprecedented. No species had ever approached debt settlement as a form of strategic conquest. Dr. Morix, the massive whale-like counselor, accessed his archives.
The debt agreement specified the delivery of 437 terraformed worlds to the Veltar Collective's inheritors. It did not specify which worlds or from which systems.
"Which is exactly what the humans are exploiting," Vortak replied.
"They're choosing systems that maximize their strategic advantage while technically fulfilling their obligation."
High Counselor Zethkar pulled up holographic displays showing human fleet movements.
"According to our tracking, humanity now operates 17 terraforming fleets, each capable of converting an entire star system in less than 3 weeks.
Their technological advancement has been remarkable. What the displays didn't show was the true scope of humanity's transformation.
On Earth, the entire civilization had reorganized around debt settlement with an efficiency that terrified galactic observers. Every human colony, research station, and industrial facility had been converted into support infrastructure for the terraforming fleets. Admiral Elena Vasquez, commanding the lead fleet from the UES probability, received regular updates from Earth that painted a picture of civilization-wide determination that defied galactic understanding of species behavior.
"Admiral, we're receiving the monthly production reports," Communications Officer Chen announced.
"Earth's industrial output has increased by 1,500% since we began operations. The asteroid belt mining operations are producing raw materials at rates that our own economists consider impossible."
Dr. Marcus Webb, reviewing the data, shook his head in amazement.
"Elena, according to these numbers, humanity has essentially converted its entire civilization into a single massive machine dedicated to terraforming. We've got shipyards in orbit around Jupiter building terraforming platforms faster than we can deploy them."
"And the new technology developments?"
"We've made breakthroughs that are making our early cascade systems look primitive," Dr. Webb replied. "The engineering teams on Mars have developed quantum resonance arrays that can initiate probability cascades across multiple star systems simultaneously.
We could theoretically terraform 50 systems at once." Elena considered the implications. Humanity wasn't just settling their debt efficiently.
They were revolutionizing their entire approach to galactic expansion.
Dr. Webb, at our current rate of technological advancement and territorial acquisition, what will humanity's position be when we finish settling the debt?
We'll control approximately 40% of the habitable systems in our galactic sector, Dr. Webb replied matter-of-factly. We'll have the largest fleet, the most advanced terraforming technology, and a population base spread across several hundred worlds.
By any measure, we'll be the dominant galactic power.
Elena absorbed this information while watching their latest target system undergo cascade terraforming. 3 planets were simultaneously developing optimal atmospheric conditions, their geological processes accelerating through quantum probability manipulation.
What should have taken millennia was happening in days. And the other galactic powers? How are they responding?
That's where things get interesting, Dr. Webb said, pulling up intelligence reports.
The Galactic Council is in permanent emergency session. The Hracti are demanding intervention. And several smaller civilizations are actually requesting protection from us. Protection from us? We're not threatening anyone. No, but we're making everyone else's territorial expansion strategies obsolete overnight.
When you can terraform faster than other species can survey new systems, traditional concepts of galactic colonization become meaningless.
Back at the Galactic Council, the emergency session was reaching a critical point.
General Vorthak had presented evidence that humanity's debt settlement was fundamentally altering the balance of galactic power, but the Council found itself trapped by their own laws.
The humans are exploiting a loophole in galactic law, Vorthak declared. They're using debt settlement as cover for systematic territorial acquisition on an unprecedented scale. Councillor Vexnara's crystalline form pulsed with frustration.
General, while your concerns are valid, we cannot simply change the law because a species is paying their debts too effectively.
Too effectively?
Vorthak's red eyes blazed. They've terraformed more worlds in 8 months than most civilizations manage in 8 centuries.
They're not paying a debt.
They're conducting the most successful military expansion in galactic history without firing a single shot.
High Counselor Zethkar reviewed the latest reports from human territories.
The humans have also established trade relationships, cultural exchanges, and defensive pacts with every species in proximity to their new colonies.
They're not behaving like conquerors.
Because they don't need to, Vorthak replied. When you control the most valuable real estate in the galaxy and can create more faster than anyone else can claim it, traditional conquest becomes irrelevant.
Dr. Morex raised a troubling point. There's another aspect to consider. Humanity's technological advancement has been exponential.
Our scientists estimate that within 5 years, human terraforming capabilities will exceed anything achieved by the Veltar at their peak. The implication hung heavy in the chamber. The Veltar had been the most technologically advanced species in galactic history, capable of manipulating stellar mechanics and reshaping reality itself. The idea that humanity might surpass them was both fascinating and terrifying.
Which brings us to a more serious question, Councillor Vexnara said quietly. What happens when humanity finishes settling their debt?
The question silenced the chamber. No one had considered the aftermath of successful debt settlement on this scale.
General Vorthak provided the answer they all feared.
When humanity finishes settling their debt, they'll control more territory, have more advanced technology, and command more resources than any single power in galactic history. And they'll have done it all legally, using our own laws as justification. High Counselor Zethkar called for a recess to consider options, but the reality was becoming clear. The Galactic Council had inadvertently enabled humanity to become the dominant galactic civilization by insisting they pay an impossible debt.
Meanwhile, Admiral Vasquez received a priority communication from Earth.
President Morrison appeared in holographic form, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stood representatives from dozens of human colonies, research facilities, and military commands.
Elena, we've received formal communications from 47 different galactic civilizations.
They're requesting various forms of partnership, alliance, or protection agreements.
Protection from what?
From the chaos that's going to follow when we finish settling our debt, Morrison replied. It seems the galaxy has realized that we're not just paying off the Veltar obligation.
We're fundamentally restructuring galactic civilization. Admiral Vasquez studied the data stream showing human expansion across 3 spiral arms. Madam President, are we accidentally conquering the galaxy? Not accidentally, Morrison corrected. We're systematically demonstrating that traditional approaches to galactic politics are obsolete.
When you can terraform worlds faster than bureaucracy can process territorial claims, when you can establish colonies in systems other species consider unreachable, when you can solve resource scarcity by creating resources faster than they can be consumed, the old rules stop applying.
Dr. Webb joined the conversation. Admiral, I've been analyzing the Veltar records more thoroughly. I think I understand their ultimate intention in saving humanity. Which was? They knew their civilization was declining.
They were the most advanced species in the galaxy, but they were dying out. By saving humanity, they weren't just preventing our extinction. They were investing in a species that would eventually inherit their role as galactic shapers.
Elena felt a chill of understanding. You're saying they saved us to replace them?
I'm saying they saved us to surpass them, Dr. Webb corrected.
And we're about to do exactly that.
As the human fleet prepared to move to their next target system, Elena realized that humanity had passed a point of no return.
They weren't just settling a debt anymore.
They were fulfilling the Veltar's ultimate plan to ensure that galactic civilization would continue to evolve and advance. General Vortak, monitoring human movements from his flagship, came to a similar realization.
Send a message to all Hraktai territories, he ordered his communications officer. Begin immediate defensive preparations. The humans aren't our debtors anymore.
What are they, sir? Vortak watched human ships disappear into hyperspace toward systems the Hraktai had planned to claim for themselves. They're what the Veltar became before they went extinct.
And if we're not careful, they'll decide that paying debts isn't as efficient as simply eliminating creditors.
The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's approach to debt settlement wasn't just changing the economic balance of power. It was reshaping the fundamental nature of galactic civilization itself. And there were still over 200 worlds left to terraform.
11 months after humanity began settling their debt, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES probability as it approached the final system on their terraforming list.
The number displayed on her command console read 437, the exact number of worlds specified in the ancient Veltar debt agreement.
What had begun as an impossible financial obligation had transformed into the most comprehensive civilization-building project in galactic history.
Behind the human fleet stretched a network of terraformed worlds, trade routes, and strategic positions that effectively redrew the political map of 3 spiral arms.
Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from every major galactic power, Communications Officer Chen reported.
The Galactic Council, the Hraktai Empire, the Zephyrian Commonwealth, the Crystalline Confederacy, and 17 other governments. They all want to be present for the completion of our debt settlement.
Elena smiled grimly. Tell them they're welcome to observe.
This is, after all, a matter of galactic legal interest. Dr. Marcus Webb approached with the final terraforming calculations.
Elena, the last 7 worlds in this system will complete our obligation exactly.
437 fully terraformed, habitable worlds, delivered as specified in the debt agreement.
And our current territorial holdings?
We now control or have defensive agreements with civilizations across 42% of the known galaxy, Dr. Webb replied. Our population has expanded to over 200 billion humans across 437 worlds, supported by the most advanced technological infrastructure any species has ever achieved. Elena nodded, reviewing the strategic displays that showed humanity's transformation from a single-world species to a galactic superpower in less than a year.
Dr. Webb, when we activate the final cascade terraforming sequence, what will be the galaxy's response? Officially? Congratulations on successfully settling the largest debt in galactic history. Unofficially? Absolute terror about what we do next. The question of what humanity would do after settling their debt had consumed galactic political discourse for months. Traditional models of species behavior suggested they would focus on consolidating their new territories, establishing stable governments, and integrating with existing galactic civilization. But humanity had already demonstrated that traditional models didn't apply to their approach to problem solving.
Admiral, priority communication from Earth, announced Communications Officer Chen. President Morrison appeared in holographic form, but her location was clearly not the familiar setting of Earth's government buildings. Behind her stretched the panoramic view of space visible from humanity's new capital world, Terra Prima, located at the strategic center of their territorial network.
Elena, the final phase authorization has been approved by the Unity Council.
You are cleared to complete debt settlement and initiate protocol cascade.
Elena raised an eyebrow. Protocol cascade wasn't part of the original mission parameters, Madam President.
Protocol cascade has become necessary due to developing circumstances, Morrison replied. General Vorthak and the Hraktai Empire have made some unfortunate decisions regarding their interpretation of debt settlement completion. The transmission expanded to include additional figures: General Patricia Hayes, now commanding humanity's space defense forces, and Dr. Sarah Chan, promoted to Director of Galactic Relations.
General Hayes provided the tactical briefing.
Elena, Hraktai forces have been positioning themselves around systems adjacent to our new territories. Intelligence suggests they plan to contest our ownership of the terraformed worlds once the debt is technically settled.
Dr. Sarah Chan added the diplomatic perspective.
The Hraktai are claiming that since the original debt was owed to the extinct Veltar, and they purchased the rights to collect, they should technically own all 437 worlds we've terraformed.
Elena felt a familiar sensation.
It was the same feeling she'd experienced when first learning about the debt. The universe was about to discover what happened when someone tried to cheat humanity after they had followed the rules perfectly.
What exactly is Protocol Cascade?
President Morrison's expression became sharp enough to cut through stellar armor.
Protocol Cascade is our demonstration that when humans settle debts, we settle all related debts, including those we didn't know existed.
Dr. Webb, overhearing the conversation, pulled up new data displays showing energy readings from the quantum resonance arrays.
Admiral, I've been analyzing the full scope of Veltar technology in our systems. The Cascade terraforming technology doesn't just influence individual planets. We've been building a galactic-scale quantum resonance network without realizing it. Meaning? Meaning we can now influence probability cascades across the entire galaxy simultaneously. If we wanted to, we could terraform every potentially habitable world in known space at the same time. The implications struck Elena like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just been settling a debt.
They had been constructing the technological infrastructure to reshape galactic civilization on a fundamental level.
Dr. Webb, how many potentially habitable worlds exist in known space? Approximately 12,000, according to galactic survey data. Elena turned back to the communication with Earth. Madam President, are we about to terraform 12,000 worlds simultaneously?
Not exactly, Morrison replied.
We're going to do something more comprehensive.
We're going to demonstrate what the Veltar really saved when they prevented Earth's destruction. The final terraforming sequence began as scheduled, with the human fleet completing the last 7 worlds required to satisfy their debt obligation. But, as the Cascade resonance reached completion, something unprecedented happened. Every quantum resonance array humanity had constructed during their 11 months of terraforming began resonating in harmony. The effect spread across their entire territorial network, creating a galactic-scale probability manipulation field. General Vorthak, commanding the Hraktai fleet positioned to seize human terraformed worlds, watched his sensors in disbelief as every star system within 50 light-years began showing impossible readings.
What are the humans doing? He demanded of his science officer.
Sir, they appear to be.
I'm not sure how to describe this.
They're influencing the probability of beneficial outcomes across multiple star systems simultaneously. Asteroid belts are forming into optimal mining configurations.
Gas giants are developing resource-rich moon systems.
Dead worlds are spontaneously developing the geological conditions necessary for terraforming.
Vorthak realized that humanity wasn't just settling their debt to the Veltar.
They were demonstrating their inheritance of Veltar capabilities on a scale that the original species had never attempted.
Sir, his tactical advisor reported, we're receiving communications from all our territorial outposts.
Local star systems are undergoing spontaneous improvements that make them more valuable for habitation and resource extraction.
The humans aren't just terraforming worlds. They're upgrading the infrastructure of space itself. Back on the UES probability, Admiral Vasquez received confirmation that their debt settlement was complete.
437 worlds, fully terraformed and habitable, delivered exactly as specified. But the quantum resonance cascade was just beginning. Dr. Webb monitored the expanding effect with a mixture of awe and concern.
Elena, the cascade is affecting star systems we've never visited. We're essentially convincing the universe to optimize itself for complex life across our entire galactic sector. And the political implications? We've just demonstrated that traditional concepts of territorial control are obsolete.
When you can improve any star system in known space to suit your needs, the idea of competing for existing resources becomes meaningless. High Counselor Zethkar, observing the cascade effect from the Galactic Council's monitoring station, finally understood what the Veltar had seen in humanity 12,000 years ago. They didn't save a primitive species, he whispered to his fellow counselors. They saved their successors.
Counselor Vexnara's crystalline form flickered with resigned acceptance. The humans haven't just settled their debt.
They've demonstrated that they've inherited the Veltar's role as galactic shapers.
And, unlike the Veltar, they're not declining toward extinction. Admiral Vasquez opened a communication channel to the assembled galactic observers.
Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various descriptions, humanity has successfully settled our debt to the Veltar Collective as specified by galactic law. 437 fully terraformed worlds have been delivered.
General Vorthak's response was immediate.
The Raktai Empire claims ownership of those worlds as inheritors of the Veltar debt.
Elena's smile was visible even through the holographic transmission.
General Vorthak, you're welcome to try collecting your inheritance.
However, I should mention that our debt settlement included some additional considerations.
Such as settling the debt the Veltar owed to galactic civilization for failing to prevent their own extinction and leaving unfinished business behind.
The cascade effect reached its full extent, affecting every star system within 200 light-years of Earth. Planets developed optimal conditions for life.
Asteroid belts reorganized into perfect mining configurations.
Stars stabilized at ideal energy outputs.
Space itself became more conducive to the development and spread of complex civilization.
Dr. Webb provided the final assessment.
Elena, we've essentially upgraded the fundamental infrastructure of our galactic sector. Any species that wants to operate in this region will need to work with us, because we control the quantum resonance technology that maintains these improvements.
Elena nodded, understanding that humanity had achieved something unprecedented.
They had settled an impossible debt by revolutionizing their own civilization and demonstrating capabilities that made traditional galactic politics obsolete. Communications, open a channel to all galactic governments.
Channel open, Admiral. To all civilizations observing these proceedings, humanity has settled its debt as required by galactic law. We now control 437 worlds and the technological infrastructure necessary to maintain and expand galactic civilization. We formally invite all peaceful species to participate in the new galactic order based on cooperation, shared prosperity, and the principle that impossible problems require revolutionary solutions. And if they refuse, asked Dr. Webb quietly.
Elena's response carried the weight of a species that had just demonstrated their ability to reshape reality itself. Then, they can explain their refusal to the universe we just convinced to operate in our favor. The galaxy shuddered, not in terror, but in recognition.
Humanity hadn't just settled a debt.
They had inherited the responsibility of galactic stewardship and demonstrated the technological capability to fulfill it. General Vorthak, watching his empire's territorial claims become irrelevant in real time, made the wisest decision of his military career.
Open a communication channel to the humans.
I believe the Raktai Empire would like to discuss cooperation agreements. When humanity settled its debt, the galaxy discovered that some species don't just pay what they owe. They fundamentally restructure the system that created the debt in the first place, ensuring it can never happen again.
The age of human galactic stewardship had begun.